Listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have to say, I am very privileged and very blessed to have Miss Daisy Paige here with me. She is an author, and she is one of the most remarkable women I've ever met in my life. I know some that watch or listen to this, you may not believe in God, but I am a believer. I am a Christian, and I believe God put us two together to do this show. And I want you to hear her message. She can really inspire you. And Daisy, I'm just going to let you tell a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into a good conversation.
Okay, Kyle. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show. I really am blessed and honored to be able to share my story on your show. I'm from a little town in Texas near McKinney, that area, Northeast Texas, and I've been here my whole life pretty much. I can't move away more than 4.5 years, or something always brings me back home. I have 3 grown children that I couldn't be more proud of from what they've seen and witnessed during their time of growing up. I'm honored to be able to call them my children. My son is in the military, and my older 2 daughters are doing well. My oldest has had the same job for 15 years, and my youngest daughter has just bought her first home. So I'm very proud of them.
That's awesome.
I'm the author of Unexpected Moments with a foreword by Kirk Cameron. I was truly honored to be able to meet him, to get the motivation and the inspiration that I needed to write this book, because without him motivating me, this book wouldn't exist.
That is pretty cool that you got to meet Kirk Cameron, and he wrote your forward. I used to watch Growing Pains when I was younger.
Me too. That was my favorite thing to do. What was it? I think it came on Tuesdays.
I can't even remember. It's been how long since it's been on television? Like 30 years or something.
Yeah, 92, I think was, so that'd be 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the year my daughter was born. Jeez. So you said you're from the McKinney area?
Yes, sir.
You know where Baytown is?
I do.
That's where I was born.
Wow, small world.
Yeah. Yep, Baytown. Worked for the city of Pasadena, and I lived in LaPorte for gosh, I don't know how long, but while I was working for Pasadena, that's where I moved to. So you should know all those areas, huh?
Yes, I sure do. And you're down in San Antonio area now?
I'm about 45 minutes from San Antonio, about halfway between Austin and New Braunfels.
I love New Braunfels.
Oh yeah, love going down there to the water. It's something about being on the river, isn't it?
Even though I would love going to Schlitterbahn. That was my favorite thing to do there.
I have never been.
Really?
Yeah, as long as I've lived here, I have never been.
I can't believe that. You're missing out.
And now I can't go, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. You've had a story that, I mean, it broke my heart, and I know you're very strong, and I know you don't want anybody feeling sorry for you, but it really touched me, and I don't know how much you can talk about, but if you want to share your story, I'm sure it would be beneficial to the audience.
Okay. First of all, I want to let you know, I've been diagnosed with a terminal neurological condition. It's known as MSA, or multisystem atrophy. And I know it's so rare that only 4 out of every 100,000 people in the US are diagnosed with it. So many people won't know what it is because of its rarity. But what I will say is that it affects their autonomic functions, the functions in our body that we don't have to think about, like circulatory, respiratory, digestive, urinary, those sort of things start shutting down, and then gradually and eventually leads to death. All they can do, like with me, they thought I had Parkinson's because there's 2 types of MSA. There's MSA Parkinsonism, and then there's MSA cerebellar. And MSA MSAP is what they call it, what I have. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's first, and one neurologist wanted to refer me to another one, and that neurologist wouldn't see me because of the notes. He said he agreed with that doctor. So they put me in to see a movement disorder specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically took one look at me within 5 minutes. He said, "You don't have him. You don't have Parkinson." I said, "Well, what do I have?" And he said, "I think you have an MSA." And I said, "Well, can you fix me?" Because, I've not ever heard of it either.
Right.
And he said, "Unfortunately, no, there's no cure." He said, we have medicines that hopefully will slow progression, but there's no cure because it's so rare." So my goal, I wrote this book to create awareness of MSA. So hopefully, like, some of my proceeds are going to go to charity to help find a cure. And I have the link in the back of my book, and I'm hoping that people will take advantage of that and donate money too, so that there will be enough they can continue to research and hopefully come up with a cure. But
I'm gonna put those links in the description too, so people can get
okay,
there from there too.
that would be great. But how I wrote my book is the doctor told me that he spent 2.5 hours with me, Ashley, and he told me to live life as full as I could, to take each day, day by day, and to get as much life as I could out of each day. And so I would plan to go to Vermont and see a friend of mine I haven't seen in over 10 years. But she came down with COVID, so I couldn't. But after my physical therapy or aquatic therapy, that's what I have in the water. I love it. But we were driving home, and this big church that in the town had a sign on the marquee said Kirk Cameron was coming the following week. So my husband said, "Do you want to go see Kirk Cameron since we can't go to Vermont?" I said, I would love to. He was my celebrity heartthrob growing up. I said, I had his posters all over my walls,
Mhm.
but I wrote him a letter, and I gave him 3 months to send me an autographed picture, and he didn't do it. So I tore all his posters off my walls. I got mad at him.
Oh,
So when I got home, he asked me, he said, "See if your mom will go with you, or she wants to go with you." So I called her and asked her, and she said she would love to. Um, so she is a nurse, and she didn't have time to change clothes when she got off work, and I'm in a wheelchair. So here we are at Kirk Cameron's event, and we're VIP, so we get to go in early. And I'm in a wheelchair with a lady in scrubs looking like she's my personal nurse or whatever. Well, I'm at the end of the aisle, at the front aisle, and front row seat, and it became question and answer time. And this man raises his hand. Oh, I'm sorry, I raised my hand first, and I put it down because I got shy. I was like, no, I'm not gonna ask. So this man raises his hand, and Kirk looks at him and he says, Yes, sir. That lady down there on the end of the aisle, she has a question for you.
Oh no.
Jeez, no way. Kirk says, yes, ma'am. And I said, first of all, I was wanting to know if you were going to have another Seavers reunion because y'all had one before and it was really good. He said, Alan Thicke is gone, but Joanna Kearns and Tracy Gold and Jeremy Miller and I have been talking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. I said, secondly, I was a huge fan of yours. As a teenager, I had all your posters on my wall, and I told him the story. And then and I called him out and told him I tore his posters off my wall. He's like, I'll make it up to you tonight. I said, okay. Well, he said, come see me after the event. After the event was over, I asked the security guard if he could get Clark for me so I could get him to sign my ticket for me.
Mhm.
He said, yes, ma'am. And besides, he wants to see you anyway. So I said, okay. So he went and got Clark and he came over to me. He said, I gave him a Defeat MSA bracelet. And he says, is that what you have? And I said, yes. And I'm told it was terminal. And then I told him that I had a vision from God and he had told me that my time was near, but I had to share my story from the beginning first.
Mhm. That's fine. Take your time.
Clark said, well, how are you going to do that? And I said, I don't know. I don't know how, I don't know what I need. I don't know how to do it. He said, I think you should write a book. I said, book? I've never written anything more than a poem in my whole life. I don't know how to write. He goes, pray about it. God will give you the words. God, if he wants you to tell your story, I believe God wants you to write a book. So he said, and keep me updated. Let me know where you are in the book. And when you publish it, I want to know, or when you finish it, I want to know. So he gave me his email address and he told me to keep him updated. That was mid-October. The next day, I woke up and I started writing. And it was just, I prayed about it, and it just was flowing out. And I devoted about 2 or 3 hours a day. And every morning I pray to God, give me the words to write in the book. I don't want your words to touch people's lives. And he did. I kept Clark updated where I was. I had told my physical therapist, his name is Ty, that I had been writing. And I tell him, hey, I'm on chapter 30. He goes, what? Already? Oh, yeah. I'd come in one week and say, I'm on chapter 40 now. And man, you gotta be kidding me. Well, January, I was finished with the book. And I wrote Kirk, and he said, send me your manuscript. I want to read it. I think it was about a week later or so. He had this forward that he wrote for my book. I want to read it to you.
Oh, that would be awesome.
He says, it was an autumn night in Texas when I first met Daisy. She came up in a wheelchair next to me at the campfire. Her smile was bright. She shared her journey with me and told me that she did not have much time left on earth. I told her to write her story down, and I would do anything I can to help share it with the world. I only spoke with her briefly that night, but her attitude and resilient spirit inspired me. I hope this book of an individual's incredible journey through emotional and physical and spiritual pain and coming through the other side of tragedy, still praising the Lord, will encourage you in your present situation. Daisy's message will bring you comfort and remind you that you are not alone in your struggles or life circumstances. I pray her words bring you hope. There is one who knows the plans he has for you, plans to give you hope in a future. Jeremiah 29:11, Kirk Cameron.
That's pretty cool.
I know, I was like, I inspired him.
Your story is inspiring, and especially with your attitude. Some folks will get, I shared with you my problems before we started, and I know some of my regulars know that I have a disease in my spine, and it'd be easy just to lay on the couch and watch TV all day and just kind of give up.
Give up.
But we got to keep going. You're way worse than what I am. I mean, I I could still get worked on. There's not really anything they can do for you but comfort you. And yet you get up every day with a positive attitude, and all you want to do is help other people. I know there'd be some people out there that would just feel sorry for themselves and just give up. But if we continue to tell our stories, then somebody out there that's going through something similar, they would get hope. They would know they can keep going on and just keep spreading the good word around and help others. And that's all you want to do is help others.
Exactly. That's I feel like I'm doing God's work. That's what he wanted me to do. Um, on the back of my book, you'll see that the message from Psalm 119, 105.
Mhm.
The word is the lamp unto my feet and the light into my path. That is so true about our lives, like I was sharing with you earlier.
Mhm.
And it goes with, I believe, a poem. That poem, remember I told you the only thing I'd ever written was a poem. Well,
Mhm.
I got this poem published 20 years ago,
Oh wow.
and I wrote this in the book. And to me, it kind of gives an idea of what kind of writer I am. Um, I, I'm very descriptive. I want my readers to be able to see what I'm talking about in my book, put themselves there. And my reviews they're saying I can put myself in Daisy's shoes, and I can see and go through the things that she's gone through in her life, and it inspires me, like you said. And every one of those reviews that I get like that, that just inspires me to keep going and motivates me to just keep going and keep sharing the story. But my poem is called Eternal Love. And it's endless days, sleepless nights. As we go through our constant fights, do we really get what we see, or is it totally up to me? Struggling through our trying times, burdened by the price of crimes. Truly, as each day ends, know that God's your only friend. As footprints in the sand did say, He really carries us all the way. Know this, for it is up to you. He already knows what you should do. Find your faith from heaven above, then you will have eternal love.
Beautiful. Mm. No, you said something to me before we started recording about how we feel like we deserve the pain, and I know there's been times that I feel that way, that I've just screwed up so much in my life and I deserve everything that I'm getting. But you you don't deserve any of that pain, and your attitude is in itself is inspiring. I like to say, I don't know how much of your life you want to share with everyone, but you say what you want to say. This time is yours. And I want to tell everyone out there, number one, if you're going through anything, know that there's hope. Listen to this woman's story. Uh, I don't feel like I should complain ever again. You know,
Oh, that's sweet, Kyle.
and I want to say one other thing. You know, if you never share one of my videos at all, share this one. And you know, if you don't ever watch any of my videos, at least watch this one all the way through. Uh, we got to do everything we can to spread the word around and get this book out there. Um, and again, share this video. Even like I say, I don't care if you never watch or share another one of my videos. Share this one. I mean that. I don't want to get emotional. I'm going to turn it back over to you before I do.
Oh, well, I'm a little teary-eyed now, but I'll do the best I can. Um, so, like I said, I've lived in this town my whole life, and I became a Christian at the age of 8. By 9, I knew the whole Bible from the front to the back. I had read the Bible, all the Bible. I went to church camp every summer. Participated in the state of Texas Bible drills. I actually won second place in the Texas State Bible Drill one year.
Pretty impressive.
I mean, that's how I I sang in the choir. I did solos. I loved everything there was about church and learning about the Bible and God. It was my number one passion. You know, I put God first in my life. And when I was 9 years old, and I didn't share this with you, Hal, but I was at my grandmother's house, and I just thought she was like a great grandma to me because I called her grandmother and she was older than my mom's grandparent, my mom's parents, my grandparents, and my dad's parents. You know, she was much older.
Mhm.
So, one one day this big picture of this lady caught my eye, and I said, "Grandmother, who is that woman in that picture?" And she just took off to the back of the house. I thought, well, that was strange. A few minutes later, my mom and dad pulled up in the driveway, and my mom didn't come in the house with them. She sat on the hood of the car. And Daddy came in and he said, "Come sit down on the couch. I need to tell you something." He said, "Daisy, your mama's gone to heaven to be with the angels." I jumped out of his lap and I took off out the door and I went to the car and I grabbed my mom by the legs and I said, "Please come back in here and tell them that you're not dead because Daddy's telling me that you've gone to heaven to be with the angels." And she held my hand, she walked me back into the house. And Daddy said, "Daisy, she's not your mom. She's your stepmom. She didn't give birth to you. That woman in that picture, she's the woman that gave birth to you." Well, a week prior to that, I've had this feeling something's not right, you know. And I asked them, I was in the back of the car and I said, "Was I adopted?" And they said, "No, you weren't adopted." But, you know, I knew something was wrong or something wasn't right. Um, anyways, after that, my brother began to molest me because he blamed me for my mom's death. And he told me if I would never have been born, she would have never died and he would still have his mom. Well, I believed that because, you know, I heard the story that I had pneumonia and nearly died as a baby. And I was in the hospital for 6 weeks prior to her death. When she got killed, she was working, um, and a oil tanker hit her and killed her. But She didn't want to go to work. She said she wanted to stay home and take care of me, but her and my dad were fighting, and the day she died, they were in an argument. So my dad always said, never leave the house mad, never go to bed mad, because you never know if you'll ever see that person again. The person may not wake up in the morning, or that person walks out the door when you're mad at them. That may be the last time you ever see them. So I didn't understand, when I was a child, but why he had such a strong feeling about that. But okay, when I was in the ninth grade, there was this store about 2 blocks from the school, and we would all go there for lunch and hang out. They had a game room in the back, so you could play the arcade games or pool or whatever. But I smoked cigarettes as it was a cool thing to do as a teenager. You could buy your cigarettes when you were 5 years old, and back in those days, so it didn't matter. But this guy asked me out, and I told him no. He had about 8 of the girls or so that he asked out, and they told him no. And all of us started having these spells. We were passing out, or we were sometimes seeing things that weren't there, or it's unexplainable that some of these things that we went through. And people thought we were faking, and there's 9 of us, so how could you fake, But um, my dad was a police officer, and one night I was out on the football field during halftime. I was in the marching band. We did a show, and when we were conducted to turn right face, I looked back, and the band appears to be an army to me with weapons, and they're after me for some reason to kill me. So I just take off running out the football field, across the street, get in this lady's bushes, and she called the police. My dad was an officer, so he was the one called out on scene, holds out a gun and tells me, stand up and put your hands over your head. Well, when I did it, he saw it was me. He put his gun back in his holster, and he said, come on, get in the car. He took me to the hospital, and they did a spinal tap on me. Because I had already been to the hospital a couple times before that with these spells, and they drew blood, and then they could never find anything. So whenever they did the spinal tap, it tested positive for PCP and LSD. And the doctor said, I don't believe that your daughter's doing drugs because these levels are so high. I'm surprised that she's even still alive. And I told my dad, well, I smoked cigarettes, and I told him about Diego had asked me and these other girls out. And so he had my cigarettes tested. They tested positive for PCP and LSD. And he had gone over to this other girl's house and witnessed one of her spells, is what they were calling it. She did the exact same thing I did. So, they went and asked all 9 girls, including myself, where to buy your cigarettes. And they told me about the school store. And all of us had been asked out by Diego. So they went to go and bust him. And then during the raid, they told him to, stand up and put his hands up. And he had a gun in his hand, and he pointed it at one of the officers, so that he was shot and killed. Well, before that happened, I was actually had a boyfriend, and I snuck out of the house, and he raped me. So my grandma lived next door and she knew I had snuck out. And she thought maybe that the lacing had something to do with that. And I was like, no, it didn't. And she promised me she would let me tell my parents about me sneaking out, that she wouldn't do it. So after the bust, I tried to commit suicide. I had so much weight on me at this time. I was in a dark place, with what everything went on with my brother, the rape, Diego, and now him getting killed. I blamed myself for all of it. And I questioned God, God, why? I've devoted my life to you. I've been such a great Christian. Am I cursed? Was someone prior to me and my family line cursed and I'm having to pay for it? What is this all about, And I tried to commit suicide. And they found me in time and sent me to a mental health facility. And I went through counseling, found out, that I did have PTSD then. I was trying to just push those bad things back and forget about them, but you can't do that. They have a way of popping back up,
Yeah, they do.
messing you all up, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
So the therapist had called my brother and my dad in for a kind of meeting with me. And I was to tell them, what was going on. So first I told them about the rape. And my brother stands up and he says, "Who is it? I'm gonna go and kick his butt." I said, "What? Why are you getting so mad? What you did to me was worse than what he did." And he said, "I did that one time. You're just getting me mixed up with the rape and you're messed up in the head or something." The therapist asked him to leave the room. She told my dad, she said, "He has been molesting her. Daisy's not making this up." But my dad chose not to believe me. He believed my brother. And that caused a huge gap in my father and my relationship.
Imagine.
And my mom, or my stepmom, but I called her my mom because she is my mom. She raised me since I was a year and a half old. But I said, she didn't believe it either. And living in a home where you feel unsupported is just hard, you know. You feel so alone. You feel like God's deserted you. So even going through therapy, still wanting to take your life because you're out of therapy and now you're having to deal with this. But I didn't know my mom didn't know about it. I just thought she just chose to take my dad's side. How could your own son molest your daughter, do these things to your daughter? So I wanted out of that house. I wanted out of that house so bad. So I ended up pregnant when I was 16. When I had the baby, I moved in with her father and his family. So I got out of that house. But then I just put myself in a worse place. But I stayed in that place for 12 years total because that was my daughter's father, and I had two more children with him. We got married, and I thought I have to stay with the father of my children. I have to keep my family together. The only thing I ever wanted out of life was to have a family. And my children had witnessed so many things. I mean, he never hurt them, but he would beat me right in front of them in the same room. And he, my youngest daughter never lived with him. She stayed with me always stayed with me. And he thought I was brainwashing her against him because she wouldn't go. And when he came to pick the other ones up for visitation, she didn't want to go. She told him one day, "She's not brainwashed me. This is all you. I remember what you did. I saw what you did. I remember seeing blood all over the refrigerator and the floor where you had beat my mother. He had to take me to the hospital, and I would get 3 layers of stitches in my head, like 80 stitches in my head. And I'd always making up stories. Oh, I tripped over the step going in the house, or, you know, I covered for him. Even my boss asked me, Daisy, are you being beaten at home? And I said, no. And I didn't know it, but he was trying to help me. He was going to pay me days I wasn't working to get me moved out of the house. But I said, okay, I need a change. And I decided to join the Army. 28 years old, gonna join the Army. Well, God didn't want that either. He had other plans. Because the day of well, it was 2 weeks before graduation, and the day where I had to run the mile, I could see the flag. I am almost there. And I'm telling this drill sergeant, I'm gonna pass out. He says, this ain't Girl Scout camp. You keep running, soldier. So I kept running until I saw a tunnel, and it just got smaller and smaller and smaller. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up and I was pulled off the track, and they were giving me water and saying, okay, go over here now where everybody went after they did the run. And I had to march back on that hurt knee with no support. By the time we got back, my knee was huge. And they did let me go to medics, and I had to have surgery on my knee. So I got discharged, and I was in physical therapy then.
Mm-hmm.
And in physical therapy, met someone that was in physical therapy for their neck. And while we were doing our therapy, we just got to talking. We talked about Christianity and spirituality, and it's just kind of bonded. I got out before he did. We exchanged numbers, and he said, I'll call you when I get out. So he called me, and we talked, and I found out he lived in upstate New York. And I always wanted to go up there. I heard it was beautiful. So I did. I was up there. Everything was fine for 4.5 years. He never was mean, never, just kind of laid back, mellow, Christian. And one night, it was like a switch went off. We were watching the show, and after it went off, we had 2 chihuahuas, and I said, oh, she's in heat. Maybe this time, because she had been in heat before when we had her. She didn't get pregnant. And I said, well, maybe she'll get pregnant this time. They're gonna mate again. And he said something, I don't remember exactly. And I said, why are you being so mean? He said, because you're being such a blank. I'm not gonna say the word, but he called me a really bad word. And I said, do what? And I looked up, and it's because I said they're gonna be in heat. Maybe she'll get pregnant this time. He said, well, they might, kind of meaningly like them. When I said that, I looked up and I said, dude, what? By the time I said what, there was a bowl. All I could see was a bowl coming from my head. It was a big decorative ceramic bowl, and he hit me over the head with it. And I lost consciousness just for a moment, but I woke up and my kids were in the living room. They came running in there. And I told my youngest daughter, I said, call 911. She goes, what's the number? So my oldest one goes, give me the phone. And she called, and I was fighting unconsciousness so bad. I had my son, I think, called my best friend that lived up there. And I said, call her, tell her to get over here now. So he calls her. And like I said, I just kept fighting unconsciousness. And when I saw my best friend was there, I just went out black. 2 days later, I woke up in the hospital and she's in my room, and she said, good morning, sunshine. I said, how long have I been out? She said, 2 days. I was like, whoa. She goes, you've got a fractured skull. You're leaking cerebellum fluid from your brain. And I said, where are my kids? She goes, they're with the preacher and his family. I said, okay. I knew they were safe there. Well, I got out. That was in October. I got out in November, about a week or so before Thanksgiving. I was in the hospital for a month. And the church actually flew my 2 younger children home so they could be with the family for Thanksgiving. I had to wait. So my oldest daughter stayed with me. I had to wait for victims advocacy to give me the funds to get a U-Haul. They were going to fly somebody up there to drive me home because I couldn't drive in my condition. And his mom bailed him out the night that it happened. So I'm having to stay up there. I'm scared to go anywhere. That's PTSD, kicking in. I'm constantly looking over my shoulders if I go anywhere, thinking, where is he? Is he gonna hurt me again? Um, but I finally got to get home, and then my friend Eugene, which he'd been my friend since I was 5 years old. He had helped me unload my U-Haul, and he was somebody that when I was in the band, he was my tutor. He taught me how to play the drums, and I was in the 8th grade. So I had not, he pops in and out of my book occasionally. You'll see him, Eugene.
Mhm.
Um, but in 2000, when I got back home, or 2000 when I got my divorce, and we had a really bad storm, and he was in town. He didn't live in the same, or he lived in the same town, but he had moved out of town. He was in for the holidays, and he came to visit me for Christmas then one day. And that's when an earth angel appeared. Do you believe in earth angels, Kyle?
I do. I do.
Well, it was my first Christmas without my husband, being married. I'm backing up in the book just a little bit, a few years. But I am making $8.50 an hour, single parent of 3 children, barely could pay the bills. And I said, God, how am I supposed to provide for my kids for Christmas? They know the true meaning of Christmas, that it's Jesus' birthday. But I, for Christmas, would love to see the joy on their faces Christmas morning when they wake up to some gifts that I cannot buy or afford to buy. A couple days later, there was a knock at the door. By the time I got to the door, no one was there, but there was a bicycle and bags of toys.
Oh,
And a couple of days later, there was another knock at the door, and I got to it in time. This time there was a lady with another bicycle and some more toys. I said, "Did you bring some the other day?" And she said, "No, someone just brought this to the church, and they're anonymous donor." I, I said, "Wow, well, someone else brought something the other day," and she said it wasn't from our church. So, okay, well, thank you very much. And I took them all over to my friend's, my next door neighbor, my best friend's house. And Eugene helps me bring them when he comes in town over and helps me set them up Christmas Eve from Santa Claus, some of them. I had enough toys that I could put some up for birthdays and stuff, you know. There was so many. It's going to be a better Christmas than when I was married and had my husband helping me provide for them. Anyway, back to getting out, you know, well, no, let me go. So I'm sorry, this condition kind of messes with my
That's take your time. Take your time.
staying on track sometimes. But Eugene and I went to the grocery store. He took me to the grocery store while he was in town, and we got in line at the register behind his mom. And she said to the cashier, "Don't they make a cute couple?" And I said, "Patricia, we are not a couple, we are just friends." And she said, "But one of these days, Mama knows best." And so, in 2008, when we got together, he took me over there. He had told her that we were dating. And when I got over there, she said, "What did I tell you all those years ago? Mom knows best." She said, "He hasn't been married. He doesn't have his children. He's been waiting for you." I said, "Oh, I guess you did know best, you know, but really it was God. God knew best."
Yeah.
And he was there this whole time right in front of me, you know. But when he asked me the first time, I told him no. I said, "Because I asked you out in high school in the Sadie Hawkins dance, and you told me no." So the third time it was kind of mutual. So, but when I was diagnosed with MSA, I was supposed to go see a friend of mine in Vermont. And instead, my husband asked me if I wanted to go see Kirk Cameron because we passed by the church and on the marquee it said he was going to be there. And I said yes because I loved Kirk Cameron
Hmm.
and was a huge fan of him. He's a great guy, he really is.
Sounds like it.
I read the forward to you, or did I read the forward to everybody else?
You read the forward to everyone.
Okay. We
Yeah.
talked for a while beforehand, so I can't remember if I told you or them. But
Hey,
that's
don't worry about it. I sometimes forget what I had for breakfast this morning.
I do that quite often. But that's pretty much the story, you know, just all those years of abuse and thinking it's just a cycle because it really is. And women, when we find after we go through bad times like that, when we do find someone good, we test it ourselves and say, do we really deserve this person? You know, I deserve the pain. So most of the time we let the good ones go, or we don't know the good ones are there because we only know pain. And with my story, I want to inspire others to know that they're not alone in their life circumstances, that God will never put you through anything more than you can handle. What we go through is to make us stronger And I do definitely believe what I went through made me stronger, where I could face what I have ahead of me.
I appreciate you sharing your story. I know it's got to be difficult to relive that. But you are inspiring to have such a positive attitude after everything you've been through. I guess you're the female Job.
You're not the first person that said that.
Well, everything you've been through. I mean, God, I don't think he was testing you. I think he knew your strength and knew that you could inspire other people and bring hope to others. And you know, I mean, I hate to use the term martyr, but it's almost that kind of situation that you're going through what you're going through for that specific reason to help others. And I just want you to know your life has not been a waste at all. Uh, I think you're really going to help a lot of people, and I hope that the sales are good enough to get some money to the organization to find a cure for this disease, and that no one else has to go through all this.
I so hope so. And I didn't write it for self-pity. I wrote it for those reasons right there. I want to inspire others.
I believe that you are. You're doing that right now. And as I said, I'm going to put the links in the description of um, this episode.
I appreciate that.
I'm sorry. I've been trying not to break up again, uh, but
It's
thank you so
okay.
much.
And I'm sorry for everything you went through too, that you shared with me.
I appreciate that. I mean, I feel like it's nothing compared to what you've been through. It's, so many people out there go through a lot and they're alone, and I don't want anyone out there to feel alone. My email is in the description. Send me a message. If I can't help you, I will try to help find somebody that can help you. And know that there is hope. Don't give up. Please don't give up. I mean, her and I both tried to end our lives at certain points in our lives. And it just don't. Just don't. Somebody out there loves you. Somebody out there cares for you. And it's devastating.
It
And
is. That's one of the things in my book. I wanted to do it again after my dad was possibly murdered in my book, and I was pregnant when that happened with my second child. And I had postpartum after I had her really badly. And because here I am, single mom with a baby and a 3.5-year-old, and the baby has colic. But I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't take it. And my sister-in-law, I live with my sister-in-law and her their dad. She came in there to me. She said, Daisy, why do you want to take a permanent solution to a temporary problem?
exactly.
She said, you go away, get out of the house, take a drive, go see a friend, go do something and get away for a little while. And so without her, I wouldn't have made it through. I swear, because I was at my wit's end at that point. But I wasn't able to be there for her like she was me, and she committed suicide last year. So,
And
and she has,
go ahead.
sorry,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
she has a 7-year-old son. So, and now his daddy's dying with liver disease. So this poor little boy is gonna be without any parents because his mom chose to take her own life. It may you may think it's the end for you, but us here left on earth, we're the ones that have to suffer if you take your own life. And you're making a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It can be just temporary. You can make it through.
Yes.
Don't
So,
hurt the family and
yeah.
don't hurt your friends.
Yeah. I didn't tell you, but my father and then my little brother and then my best friend, all within a couple of years of each other, all ended their lives. And
Wow.
survivor's guilt is real. It's like why am I still here and my little brother's gone?
That's awful.
He
That's
was he was so loving and just he was so special. And I was an alcoholic. I was a jerk. I was a drug addict. I thought, why am I still here and he's gone? He should be the one that's still here.
that's awful. Sorry for that.
What makes it even worse is that I had been preaching for about 5 years, and then I left the church because I had a falling out with my preacher, number one, and number two, I got mad at God, and all this started happening, and I just went further from God, and I went right back to drinking and all the other stuff that I did. And in the process, hurt my children because they had to see their father drunk all the time and being, falling over jerk.
It happens. That's how I understand.
And then try to forgive yourself. That's the hardest thing in the world.
That is the hardest person to forgive out of all the ones that need to be forgiven.
But I got no reason to feel sorry. So I thank you for your story. You at least inspired me today.
Well, thank you, Colin. I did my job. But even I have to think, there's others that have it worse than I do.
We have to think that way because we can get caught up in our own problems, and you're in your head all the time.
And beat yourself down.
Yeah, it just makes things worse.
There's nobody that punishes or beats you worse than yourself.
This is true. I say, everyone out there, if you need help, find help. If you need me, send me a message. I'll do what I can. And do you have a website?
I do unexpected-moments.com.
Okay.
Also, you can find me on Facebook under Daisy Paige Author. Please follow me. And look for my second book that will be coming out. And hopefully I'll have that done out in a couple months. It's titled Beyond Heaven's Gate. It's about some dreams and visions I've had about heaven. So I want everybody to know that there is life after here, eternal life where we're not going to have any pain. We're going to be able to walk again.
Amen to that. Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am going to put the website in the description as well. So, and
okay.
anything else you'd like me to share, if you'd send it to me, I would be more than grateful to do so.
I sure will. I'll send you the link to that charity if anybody wants to donate to MSA to help the research as well.
Yeah, awesome.
It was
So,
really nice to meet you, Carl. I loved our pre-interview talk. It was
yeah,
good.
yeah, I blubbered a little bit, but I feel like God put us together today. And when your next book comes out, I definitely want you to let me know. But I want to stay in touch with you.
Absolutely. You have my email address and I have yours. So yes, I would love that.
Well, and I want to thank all of you out there. If you came by here and this is your first time, I do sincerely appreciate it. And I hope you'll come back. And please hit the subscribe button. And to all my regulars, I really love y'all too. It's because of you I get to do this. And as I said before, even if you never share any of my videos, at least share this one. And not for me, it's to get the word out about this book and to help out as much as we can. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network